Iran claims to have targeted a U.S. aircraft carrier. Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps say they have attacked.
A fierce information war is unfolding alongside military escalation after Iran claimed it struck the USS Abraham Lincoln with 4 cruise missiles.
The mission of Operation Epic Fury is laser-focused. Destroy Iranian offensive missiles, destroy Iranian missile production, destroy their navy and other security infrastructure, and they will never have nuclear weapons.
March 11th, 2026, 7:14, PMT-4 minutes until the first missile hits water. 83 ballistic and cruise missiles, 240,000 tons of naval steel locked inside the world's most dangerous choke point. Every second that ticks forward is a second closer to the most catastrophic miscalculation in modern military history. This is the story of 38 minutes that shook the Persian Gulf forever. Imagine you are standing on the deck of a warship at first light. The Strait of Hormuz stretches just 21 nautical miles at its narrowest point, barely wider than a city, and yet, through this single corridor, roughly 20% of the world's entire oil supply passes every single day. Tankers, container ships, military vessels, they all squeeze through this thin blue ribbon between Iran to the north and Oman to the south. It is not just a waterway. It is the jugular vein of the global economy. On this morning, the USS Abraham Lincoln carrier strike group sits anchored inside those waters. The Lincoln herself, over 1,000 feet of nuclear-powered steel, along with her escort destroyers USS Chunghoon and USS Nitsa, the guided missile cruiser USS Chancellorsville, a Los Angeles-class attack submarine running silent beneath the surface, and F-35C strike fighters on her flight deck loaded and armed, 12,000 sailors and aircrew, all of them going through morning routine, coffee, briefings, equipment checks. They know tensions are high. They have known for weeks. IRGC fast boats have been making aggressive passes in international waters. Iranian state media has been broadcasting threats about the strait. But this morning feels like every other morning in the Gulf. Tense, yes, but operational. That is exactly what Tehran was counting on. If you want the full truth about what happened next, hit that like button right now so this story reaches more people who need to hear it. Inside a hardened command facility buried 40 meters beneath the Zagros Mountains, a decision had already been made 48 hours earlier. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy, along with elements of the Aerospace Force, had spent months preparing for what they called their masterstroke. Their intelligence told them the Abraham Lincoln Group was momentarily vulnerable, positioned too deep inside the strait for rapid maneuvering. With her air wing not yet at full combat readiness following a logistics rotation, they believed they had a window, a narrow one, but enough. The plan was bold, layered, and on paper, genuinely dangerous. 72 Shahab-3 and Imad ballistic missiles fired simultaneously from mobile launchers across 4 provinces. These are not primitive rockets. Imad variants carry maneuverable warheads. They adjust trajectory mid-flight, making prediction harder. Paired with them, 31 Noor anti-ship cruise missiles launched from coastal batteries. Sea-skimming, radar-guided, each one designed specifically to kill aircraft carriers. And beneath the surface, a coordinated swarm of 58 domestically produced underwater drones, pre-positioned over the past 6 weeks under the cover of fishing vessel activity. The combined assault, in Iranian strategic doctrine, was designed to overwhelm, to saturate defenses with more simultaneous threats than any single strike group could realistically absorb. They called it the Deluge Protocol. One carrier sunk. The strait closed. Oil markets in global collapse. The United States humiliated in front of the world. They had war-gamed this scenario more than 60 times. In 54 of those simulations, they penetrated the carrier's defenses. There was just one problem with every single one of those simulations. They ran them without accounting for what was actually watching them. The United States Space-Based Infrared System, SBIRS, does not sleep. It does not take coffee breaks. Its sensors orbit at geosynchronous altitude, watching for the distinctive heat bloom of missile exhaust the moment any rocket motor ignites anywhere on the surface of the Earth. The system can detect a launch within seconds, not minutes, seconds. At 7:14:22, a SBIRS satellite registered the first thermal anomaly, a mobile launcher in Fars province going hot. Before the missile had even cleared its tube, the data was already racing through encrypted channels at the speed of light. Fort Meade received it. Indo-Pacific Command received it, and most critically, the Aegis Combat Management System aboard USS Chancellorsville received it. 4 seconds later, 23 more launches were detected across the network, then 40, then 61. The sky over Iran was erupting. Aboard the Chancellorsville, the tactical action officer, a 7-year Navy veteran who had run this exact drill more than 200 times in simulation, looked at her display and felt something she had never felt in a drill. Her hands were steady, her voice was clear, but somewhere behind her sternum, something ancient and mammalian was screaming. She hit the battle station's alarm anyway. You are on that ship right now. The klaxon is shaking the walls. Sailors are sprinting through corridors. The flight deck of Lincoln is erupting into controlled chaos. F-35Cs roaring to life. Every man and woman in that strike group has trained for exactly this moment. The training kicks in before the fear does. That is the entire point of training. Could you make that call in 4 seconds? With 83 missiles in the air and 240,000 tons of steel and 12,000 lives depending on what you do next? She made it. Comment Fury below if you believe that level of training deserves to be recognized. The USS Chancellorsville's Aegis system is not merely a radar, it is an integrated battle management network, AN/SPY-1D phased array, capable of simultaneously tracking more than 100 targets, simultaneously engaging 18 of them. The moment battle station sounded, her vertical launch system began its sequence. SM-3 Block 2A interceptors, missiles specifically designed to kill ballistic threats in the mid-course phase, while the warheads are still arcing through near space, began lifting from their cells in rapid succession. Simultaneously, on USS Chunghoon and USS Nitsa came online with their own Aegis suites. 3 destroyers now painting the entire threat envelope, missiles rising to meet missiles. The geometry of interception calculated not by human brains, but by machines thinking in microseconds, adjusting trajectories in real time, accounting for wind, gravity, atmospheric density, and the maneuvering behavior of each incoming warhead individually. Minute 1. The first 8 EMAD warheads were intercepted at an altitude of 140 kilometers. They never came close to the atmosphere. They were killed in space. But the Iranians had built redundancy into the Deluge Protocol. For every ballistic missile coming down from above, a wave of NOR cruise missiles was coming in low, sea-skimming at 15 meters altitude, doing 900 kilometers an hour, by using terrain masking to avoid early radar detection. These were the secondary wave, the ones designed to slip through while the Aegis systems were looking up. The problem was that the IRGC had assumed the strike group would be operating Aegis in a standard defensive posture. What they did not know, could not know because the capability had never been publicly acknowledged, was that USS Lincoln had spent the previous 72 hours integrating an experimental AI-assisted threat fusion layer into the battle network, a system that could simultaneously process upward threats and sea-level threats on separate engagement tracks without degrading the performance of either. Not 1 track, 2 tracks, running in parallel, at full capacity. The NOR cruise missiles came in from the northwest at 7:17. 3 minutes after first detection, bringing 26 of them spread across a 14-kilometer front, flying so low that spray from their wakes was visible on radar. At 8 kilometers out, the USS Chunghoon's standard missile batteries opened up on them. 7 missiles destroyed in the first volley. Then 4 more from the Chancellorsville. Then F-35Cs that had gone airborne in under 90 seconds. Pilots that should not have been able to react that fast, but did, came screaming in from the south, firing AIM-12OD AMRAAM missiles from beyond visual range. Type yes in the comments right now if you want to see every single one of those targets hit simultaneously when we get to the final count. The cruise missile wave disintegrated. 14 destroyed by shipboard systems, 9 destroyed by the F-35s, 3 remaining. Those 3 entered the final defensive ring where the phalanx close-in weapon systems, 6-barreled 20-millimeter Gatling guns spinning at 4,500 rounds per minute, engaged them within 2 kilometers of the hull. All 3 destroyed, 0 penetrated, 0. But the battle was not over. The underwater drone swarm had not been triggered yet. The 58 submersible drones were the part of the Deluge Protocol that Iranian planners had been most confident about. Quiet, slow, undetectable to standard hull sonar, each one carrying a shaped charge powerful enough to rupture a destroyer's hull. They had been pre-positioned over 6 weeks, meticulous, patient, brilliant in a certain light. And what the IRGC did not know was that the USS Hartford, the Los Angeles-class attack submarine running silent below the surface, had been tracking anomalous contacts in the region for 11 days. Her crew had identified the drone network not as fishing equipment, as Iranian cover stories suggested, but as exactly what it was. They had marked every single contact, 61 of them, logged, cataloged, waiting. When battle stations sounded on the surface, Hartford's captain did not wait for orders that would never come in time. He acted on pre-authorized rules of engagement. Mark 54, lightweight torpedoes, and Mk-60 captor mines deployed in a coordinated pattern. Within 7 minutes, 54 of the 58 submersible drones had been either detonated, disabled, or driven to the surface. The remaining 4 were neutralized by hull-mounted active sonar and anti-torpedo countermeasures. The strait was theirs. The Deluge Protocol had failed completely. Share this video right now so people understand exactly what was hiding beneath those waters for 6 weeks. Now here is where the story changes direction in a way that Iranian planners never modeled. In 54 of their 60 simulations, the scenario ended with the attack. Either it succeeded or it failed. They never modeled what happens when you fire 83 missiles at an American carrier strike group and none of them connect. They never modeled what the response looks like. At 7:29 a.m., 15 minutes after first launch, National Command Authority authorization had already been transmitted. The response did not require a phone call to the Oval Office at that moment. The attack on U.S. naval forces in international waters under existing doctrine triggered automatic authorization protocols. Indo-Pacific Command activated them. U.S. Central Command activated them. 18 B-52H Stratofortresses, already airborne on a precautionary patrol east of Diego Garcia, received tasking. Their payload, a combination of AGM-158B JASSMER standoff cruise missiles and GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators, represented a strike package that had been pre-planned, pre-approved, and preloaded. These were not improvised targets. These were the results of years of intelligence collection. Every IRGC missile storage facility, every mobile launcher depot, every underground hardened bunker in the Zagros mountain network, every radar site, then every coastal battery. USS Chancellorsville and her 2 destroyer escorts simultaneously ripple-fired 127 Tomahawk cruise missiles from their vertical launch systems. 127 Tomahawks. Think about that for a moment, each one independently navigating to a separate GPS-confirmed target. Some flying 400 miles, some flying 80, all of them arriving within a coordinated window. 4 Virginia-class submarines that had been pre-positioned in the Arabian Sea contributed an additional 76 Tomahawks. That is 203 cruise missiles in the air before a single B-52 reached its release point. 203. The targets were methodical, not random, not emotional, methodical. First priority, the mobile launcher battalions. The IRGC had expended their reloads in the first strike. They were in the process of attempting to relocate when the Tomahawks found them. Not one launcher battalion survived. Not one. Second priority, the underground production facilities at Isfahan and Parchin, where Shihab and Ahmad missiles were manufactured and stored. The GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator, a 30,000-pound bunker buster that can penetrate 60 meters of reinforced concrete before detonating, was designed for exactly this type of facility. It does not negotiate with hardened structures. It simply goes through them. Third priority, coastal anti-ship missile batteries along the Gulf of Oman and the northern Strait shoreline. The ones that had fired the Noor cruise missiles and the ones that had not yet fired. All of them. Gone. Fourth priority, IRGC Navy fast boat bases at Bandar Abbas and Jask. The fast boat swarms that form the backbone of Iranian naval harassment strategy. The pens, the fuel depots, the maintenance facilities, the command structures. At 7:52, the B-52 strikes began arriving. The sound of their payload impacting the Zagros mountain facilities was reportedly audible from residential areas in Shiraz, 60 kilometers away. If this level of coordinated response shocked you, comment operation below right now. 38 minutes after the first Iranian missile launched, the operation was effectively over. Here is what the final assessment looked like. Iran launched 83 missiles, 83 people believed to be enough. The United States intercepted 83 of them, every single one. The defensive ratio was total, not partial, not impressive. Total. In response, The United States and its assets delivered 203 Tomahawks plus the full B-52 strike package against 51 separate high-value targets. The timeline: Minute 1, ballistic wave intercepted in mid-course. Minute 3, cruise missile wave destroyed. Minute 7, underwater drone network neutralized. Minute 15, counterattack authorization transmitted. Minute 22, first Tomahawks in flight. Minute 38, B-52 package complete. 38 minutes from first launch to last explosion. For context, in 38 minutes, most people have not finished their morning commute. The IRGC's offensive missile capability in 3 provinces was reduced by an estimated 68% in a single operational window. The coastal anti-ship battery network that had been built and expanded over 17 years was functionally eliminated. The underwater drone program that Iranian engineers had spent 4 years developing and deploying was dismantled in 7 minutes by a submarine crew of 135 sailors who never surfaced. The Strait of Hormuz, which Iran had intended to close, remained open. Not a single commercial vessel was interdicted. The oil flow never stopped. The global markets never moved. That is the point that deserves to be understood above everything else in this scenario. Iran's Deluge Protocol was not primitive. It was sophisticated. It was layered. It exploited real tactical windows. Their engineers and planners were not incompetent. So the underwater drone program alone represented genuine innovation and genuine patience. In a different era, against a different opponent, it might have worked. But modern integrated defense is not a single wall. It is not even multiple walls. It is a living network, space-based sensors talking to surface radars, talking to underwater sonar, talking to airborne fighters, talking to submarine crews, talking to battle management AI running engagement tracks simultaneously across every domain. When you attack that network on one axis, you are not weakening it everywhere else. You are engaging the full system. And here's what that means for the future. The lesson of Operation Epic Fury is not simply that Iran lost. The lesson is that a full-spectrum coordinated strike from the most technologically advanced naval power in history is not survivable through volume alone. The Deluge Protocol's central assumption, that enough simultaneous threats would overwhelm a single strike group, failed because it assumed the strike group was operating as a standalone platform. It was not. It never is. It is always a node in a network that extends to orbit and back. That changes everything about how you have to think about modern warfare. When deterrence holds, it holds not because of any single weapon or any single platform. It holds because of integration. Because of the 11 days USS Hartford spent quietly cataloging underwater contacts that everyone on the surface had no idea she was tracking. And because of a 7-year Navy veteran whose hands were steady at 7:14 when the alert came in. Because of F-35 pilots who were airborne in 90 seconds and firing in 120. Because of a battle management AI running 2 separate engagement tracks without degrading either one, a capability that existed, was never publicly acknowledged, and just quietly saved 12,000 lives. Those people, that training, that integration, that is what held the Strait of Hormuz open this morning. Would you have done anything differently? If you were in the tactical action officer's seat at 7:14 with 83 missiles in the air, what call do you make? Tell me in the comments. I want to read every single one. And if this scenario showed you something about modern warfare that you didn't see coming, if the underwater drone element, the AI engagement layer, the submarine's pre-positioning, or the sheer scale of that counterattack surprised you, drop a comment and tell me which moment hit you hardest. These conversations are why this channel exists. Hit subscribe for scenarios like this every single week. Not just battles, not just explosions, the doctrine, the technology, the human decisions, the moments where training meets reality and one call changes everything. That is what we do here. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.